Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today I want to talk about this crazy and wild Season 2 Plus migration phase that has ended as of a couple days ago for the 9 S2 Plus KVK groups and the kingdoms within them that will be going into our inaugural / first T1 / S2++ season that's going to be starting most likely on February 2nd. So the migration window phase has ended. This lasted 3 days across the 21st to the 24th. The kingdoms that were involved in this group, and I guess probably easier for me to go this way, are SS2-2 through SS2-10 at the moment. Now, what we ended up recently learning throughout was we did see that we got some information from CoD CS when it comes to the factors that go into migration or the kingdom activity status. And that's influence, the current power, your growth of power, merits, hero stars, star level, heroes awakened, artifact level, total amount of units that you have trained, or your legion counts, and then war pet skills. So these were some of the factors that we ended up hearing, or we should say all, that go into whether or not your kingdom, as an example, is green, if it's yellow, if it's orange, or if it's red. Right, depending on your status or your server division status. Now, excuse me, well, not server division, but your kingdom status. And so this then brings me into, okay, well, what were some of the challenges that were encompassing some kingdoms this season? Well, some of them include hearing about players that were sending farm accounts to kingdoms in order to take up spots, so an alliance or a number of players would not be able to get all of their players in. Or worse, if you want to, I don't know if you say worse, but the other side of this is I also heard that there was a situation where players were sending farms into another kingdom, holding those spots hostage and charging money in order to migrate those farms out of the kingdom, in order to then open spots in what probably could have been a normal status kingdom, but I'd say normal active, right? Because those have the most amount of slots. For those that may or may not know, normal has 350 spots open, active has 200, and crowded, even though they never gave us a number on this, we estimate it's probably 75 to 100. And the challenge is that that's pretty intense, right? It's, borderline abuse. It's blackmail, if you will. And that might be a little harsh, but you understand the gravity of that, is that you got people that are going and sending extra characters in there, holding the spot hostage and saying, hey, you pay me this much money, we'll go ahead and either move one out, we'll move a couple out, or we'll move them all out. And that's rough when you think about it. The other stories, and this is something that had happened before, is there was a kingdom that had an alliance migrate into that kingdom just because they wanted to fight against them again. And when you think about that, because of the way that the current migration system operates, there's no oversight. There's no prerequisites. There's no vetting process. No. All you have to do, as long as you're in the division and you have a kingdom that's in your KVK group, you just have to click here, click on migrate, you pay your 5,000 gems, and you're there. No power cap. Doesn't matter what power level you are. Doesn't matter what your intentions are. Anyone can go anywhere they want as long as the space is open, the kingdom is in their KVK, and they have the 5,000 gems. That's it. Now, this may sound great, right? This might sound lovely with how simple it is to move. And to a degree it is. We should state that. The fact that migration systems can be simple, and in my opinion should be simple, and that's with an asterisk there as well. It doesn't always mean in all areas. But at least simple in some areas is a blessing in disguise, right? When you're taking a lot of the complications out of it. But it also presents its challenges. And its challenges is that you don't know who's coming into your kingdom. You don't know what their intentions are. You don't know what their plans are. You don't know who else is migrating into a kingdom that you and a number of players, or a full alliance or 2 full alliances, are planning to go to. And it makes being able to plan and organize utterly impossible. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. What it means is that it's impossible to guarantee and to accurately predict with any form of certainty that you're going to be able to get every player that you want to get in to a kingdom. And that is because, at the end of the day, what they really need to have or to add into the game is some kind of an oversight system where you have someone, ideally, right, one person, and we've talked about this before with this kind of like king-queen system or some other type of governing system, but essentially where kingdoms can accept or deny applicants, players that apply, could even be an alliance that applies, right? We've talked about that before. But at its core, and its most simple version, if you're just starting out and doing something first, having every single player apply and then having a king-queen or someone else, maybe a group. I'm not really a fan of a group, but again, we can always talk about it later. The point is that having some kind of accept-deny system. So that way, you can truly vet and have a higher percentage chance of getting players that have good intentions into the kingdom versus those that have ill intentions, right? And it doesn't ever mean you're going to have a guarantee of only getting those people. And people can lie, they can, they can say whatever they want, right? And really the only defense that kingdoms have is doing some due diligence, doing some vetting. And also if player profiles that are applying kind of come with somewhat of a resume, like what kingdoms did you play in, maybe what alliance did you end with, what was your season merits that you gained, what was your power growth, etc. Like if they had things like this that almost kind of gave you like a contribution report card, so to speak, right? These would be things that obviously would help. So as an example, you could have kings or queens go into those kingdoms or go into those alliances and from those kingdoms and ask, hey, how was this player? Right? Were they, well behaved? Did they cause problems? Did they fight? Did they not fight? Right? You could even see on their like report card as an example how many T4 and T5 kills do they have, along with total kill breakdowns. These are things that would help kingdoms be able to have healthier representation in them, and also be able to resupply the ranks with quality rather than just focusing on quantity. And if you get enough quality in there, it can become quantity. And again, not to dive down the rabbit hole, these are just some things I wanted to touch on from some stories that I ended up hearing. And then we get to some of the other challenges, which is that, right, there have also been reports of multiple alliances trying to get into kingdoms and not being able to bring all of their players. And it goes right back to what I was saying about not being able to see who's going in and who's leaving. And you just have no way of doing so. It's very unpredictable. The other thing that we've been seeing when it comes to try to lower activity status is some of those factors that I showed you earlier, to the point where we've seen some extremes of kingdoms that are full trying to lower so they can get more of their players in, doing things such as killing off troops, doing things such as leaving alliances to still go out and fight. So that way, from what it's been reported, is that when you're fighting outside of alliance, you're not getting merits. So they're able to fight and increase their hospital bill, therefore lowering their power on top of killing troops off. And then you think about, having to, remove war pets from your legions as an example, doing other things that you can, maybe limiting power growth, maybe limiting how many heroes or artifacts you're leveling up and still investing in. Like, these are all things that stagnate development, right, when you have to do them. And it almost just becomes, to me, it feels like an extreme, where we really have to do a lot of these things just so we can lower our activity status enough to get a few more people. And don't get me wrong, props to those that are taking time to do everything that they can to get as many of their players in as possible. That can only be deserving of applause and appreciation, and I'm sure those that were then able to migrate into those kingdoms because of a unified effort or an effort done from those participating in trying to lower the activity status for kingdoms can only be looked at as a thank you. However, at the same time, that's a lot of work to be able to do that. And do I think that that type of system is sustainable? Where, and let me say this, right? It's not as though the developer isn't forcing players to do this, but players will do this. I think it's a testament to show how much we care about wanting to play with a community wanting to play with others, wanting to try and get as many alliances and players into a kingdom as possible, as we saw just a couple days ago for this most recent big kingdom pool migration phase for those 9 S2 plus KVK kingdoms that are in them. There was multiple multi-alliance migrations that left kingdoms to join normal status kingdoms. And to me, that's a testament of, hey, we want to play with multiple alliances. We want to have a little bit more of this kind of kingdom feel, right? Versus us as an individual alliance just kind of playing and doing our own thing, so to speak. And that's an oversimplification, bear in mind. But it is something that has been happening and has been trending upwards. So from here, then we get to, well, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the big hurdles that I think could happen because of the way the system is currently? Again, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever. But this is something that worries me. And it's not necessarily a fault of the devs. It's just more of this, it is what it is, and it can happen. One of the things that I think about is with the kingdom activity status factors that we showed you a little while ago. As a reminder, the influence, current power, power growth, merits, hero star level, awakened, how many heroes you have awakened, artifacts level, total units, or legion count, and war pet skills. It makes me think to myself, what is to stop? Because of this forced KVK system, right, that you're going into. It is a little bit different from Rock in that regard. What's to stop alliances or kingdoms with multiple alliances from just saying, you know what, we're just going to sit this season out. We're not going to fight, right? We'll maybe do our minimum merits so we can clear our merit shop. We'll do minimum things in this area. But as many factors as we can influence and somewhat manipulate, not in a negative or unintended way, but manipulate that's in our favor. So that way when migration comes up, right, they will be in the best possible position, being their next migration phase, be in the best possible position to get the most amount of players into their kingdom. I mean, that doesn't sound bad. I mean, there's, and if you look at Rock, there's this, from what I've heard, where you have kingdoms that will take resting KVKs to heal back up. And I don't know how many of them are doing it, but okay. I mean, if your healing system isn't exactly like CoD, okay, I kind of get that. Like, you could sell me on that. That makes sense. Where, as far as being one option, not to say it's the option, but one option where it's you take a duration of a KVK and you rest up, you heal, and then you fight the next KVK. So it's one on, one off, one off, one on, one off. Now, in CoD, it's a little bit different, obviously, because of the way the healing system works here and the fact that it's a forced KVK. And in Rock, you can also, at certain stages, choose, right, the particular KVK that you want to register for. And so, to me, it is, and makes me wonder, is that something that we could see? And if one or two or a couple alliances or some kingdoms choose to sit one out because they want to invest in their kingdom's future, who can fault them? If they want to put themselves in the best position to have the lowest activity status level come the migration phase to get as many players in as they can, I see that as an investment. I don't see that as a bad thing. However, if we're talking about the scope of fighting within that KVK, yeah, that can be a little rough, where you're hoping to get, great fighting every KVK, but the challenge is that for some kingdoms it may make sense, for some alliances it may make sense to not overinvest. However, the other side of it is that you invest early. You consistently, maybe over 1 or 2 KVKs, get your activity status as low as you can. You bring in as many people as you can, and then you say, you know what, we're set. Now we're going to keep fighting. And then maybe if something happens and we see, a decent amount of people leaving, then maybe we'll go ahead and we'll do that resting or that investing KVK in order to then lower our activity status. That to me just feels like that can be something that could happen. I don't know if it will happen because I don't think we've seen that happen yet. But now that we know a little bit more, now that we also know that some alliances and kingdoms have done these, and it has actually worked in lowering from full to a crowded status to get more players in, this to me just almost feels like the next obvious choice for kingdoms that really want to take this application to an extreme. And again, maybe there's other things I'm not thinking of. If you're someone and you're a player in an alliance or in a kingdom and you applied some of these or all of these, I'd be curious to know, how many players were you able to get in? Is what I'm saying appealing at all? Is it something that you would even consider doing? Or, you know what, no, it's too much work. We don't want to just chill for an entire season. You know, activity's good enough. We don't really need to worry about lowering it. And then, okay, I get that. But if there's any merit that anyone out there thinks like, you know what, this actually doesn't sound like a bad idea, right? Depending on where your kingdom is at, how many alliances and players you have, right? Maybe it makes sense. With that in mind, I just wanted to share that on, again, a couple of just the wild stories and some of the things that I look at when it comes to how the movement is happening within the game. Because as most of you know, I have a character in every single kingdom. And this is something, right, that you can see here, all my accounts, right? And you can go all the way down here to 319. I think 320 is probably the newest, or 321. I might be behind by 1 or 2. Oh, good, I'm only behind by 1. But for me, it's one of the things I very much enjoy doing. I love seeing what's happening in the world of Call of Dragons and being able to talk and report on trends, report on things that are happening, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. To share with you kind of news of the world, at least in some sense, for some of the things that I cover. And I hope you guys enjoy these videos as much as I enjoy covering them. Let me know anything and everything you guys think in the comments down below. That's going to be it for me. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.